Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're breaking down our picks for the top 5 and one worst level 1 Paladin Spells.
We're gonna blitz through these half-casters, man. I feel like we just started Ranger yesterday, and here we are already going through Paladin, which has its
Yep.
own caveats and its own conditions and its
Well,
own little nuance to it.
They are, half casters. They only get 5 levels, so
It's true. Generally speaking, for the half-casters, their upper tier slots are competing with other features that other characters are getting. Those happen to be higher level spells, and those higher level spells will make your mid-level spells feel pretty bad. So, Paladin 5th level spells are going to have a hard time feeling good. Go watch our Ranger 5th level spells to get context. It's like that kind of circumstance going on live in front of you. For lower level spells, though, it's less of an issue, and Paladin has a decent enough list. I'm not super upset with most of these, but there are some traps that we can get to avoid, because Paladins have a neat feature called Divine Smite. And Divine Smite gives you a place that it's basically an always prepared spell that you can just say, when you hit something, I'm going to spend a spell slot and do 2d8 damage to it for free. And that goes up by a d8 damage for each spell level above first. So if you use a second level spell slot, you get 3d8 damage. And every single spell that we're going to talk about is going to have to compete with Divine Smite, not only in its doing of the bonus damage, but it also coming for free on top of a known hit. That's all huge perks to using Divine Smite. Is going to make its competition a little bit more stiff than we might see in a class like Ranger.
well, still, even that, so they're all competing against Divine Smite, but I mean, so we're just going to talk about how they compete against each other.
Also that.
Yeah.
But some of them are uniquely bad because their effects directly compete with Divine Smite, where others are a little bit better because they do something different than Divine Smite.
Right.
Kind of get where I'm going?
Yeah. Especially the Smite spells.
We'll get into that. Don't worry. Spoilers for later.
All right, and the other caveat, of course, is that Sam picks his in order, best to worst. I just picked to the top 5, no particular order, except for the worst. That's the worst.
Yeah.
All right. You want to kick things off, Sam?
Yeah, I'm gonna start with my number 5. I really, really, really love this spell. It is kind of just cute, but it does have a lot of little meaningful text that I think is worth considering, and it's Ceremony. Ceremony is from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It's a cleric paladin spell. You can be polygamous, and everyone gets a bunch of bonuses to their dice before the boss fight. It's very fun. Everyone gets married, and it's awesome. You also have just a laundry list of these cool abilities. So you get you can touch creatures that are young adults for 24 hours to give them a bonus d4 to any ability check they roll, but every person can only benefit from that once, and they have to be quantified as a young adult, which is going to vary based on your species and stuff, but that's a really cool ability to have stable to a spell. You have Blessed Water, which is just routinely usable if you want to make holy water. This is just a codified in-game way over an hour to make holy water. I really like that. That's a great paladin downtime activity to have, and it goes alongside clerics. Clerics can be ritual casters, don't have to spend spell slots on it, but as a downtime thing, as a thing you're doing prior to a long rest, I think Ceremony is a pretty excellent little small expansion of your utility that you prepare for lower stakes adventures, and you take off your sheet whenever you want to do we're going into a dungeon next encounter or next rest. I'm going to not prepare Ceremony this time because I probably don't have time to perform a wedding whenever we're going in to kill a bunch of kobolds. But you never know. Maybe you end up bonding with a kobold, and there's a pair of them that are fallen madly in love, and you can officiate their ceremony. That would be really cute.
All right. I saw this. I looked at it and I thought, I wonder if Sam's going to put this on his list. I did not put it on mine. I briefly glanced over it and said, this is stupid, and skipped it.
It does a lot of things. Do you see?
Yeah, it does.
For a first level spell.
Yeah, it does.
At minimum, you can prepare this enough times to use dedication for every one of your party members. You just have to touch a humanoid, and for 24 hours, it gets a bonus d4 to the saving throw. And that's just a thing it gets once in its lifetime. So you can kind of pick and choose these cool windows to go, okay, this is your time. You're going to really be good buddies with Bahamut. Here's a d4 for the next 24 hours. Spend it wisely. I think that's a really cool ability. I love that this is a spell, but also just kind of a paladin cleric feature in a larger sense. I think it's so cool.
It is. I didn't give it a fair shake, but I don't feel too bad about that.
I probably should have ranked it higher, to be honest.
Really? Ooh.
I think this one's excellent. And there are ones above it that I don't think are excellent, but we'll get into it.
All right. I'll since mine are in no particular order, I'll start with the most generic. I picked Detect Magic. That was my pick after I picked the ones I thought, all right, this is definitely going to go on the list. Detect Magic, wonderful spell. However, it's we've talked about it enough, and this feels like more. I don't feel very paladin about detect magic. This is something like let the wizard take care of this. I have important grown up things to attend to.
Sure. I think if paladins were ritual casters, I'd entirely agree with you. Paladins notably don't get to cast ritual spells as rituals. They have to spend spell slots on detect magic, which makes me a lot lower on detect magic, and especially for the reasons you just gave. Everyone else under the sun gets this. If you have any ritual caster in your group, you just be like, hey, you do this. I don't want to have to need this. Still, it's not the end of the world as a utility thing to need to cast this as an action. It's not the end of the world to be like, all right, fine, I guess because I'm the paladin and have to be the responsible one, I took a spell that'll help us figure out what around us is dangerous and going to possibly explode with magic runes. So it does do a somewhat serviceable ability. I just think most characters can get it cheaper and better, and paladins don't really want this on their sheet often.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was looking at the rest of the list, and like
It's not that compelling.
There are things that I like, but I like this one felt the easiest to I don't know. This one felt the right choice, I guess.
Yes.
All right, what else you got?
My number 4 is Bless. And I rate Bless a lot higher on clerics than I rate it on paladins, just because paladins aren't always the ones going to be taking the damage. The concentration's a little bit easier to protect. And you really want like 3 or 4 rounds out of Bless to justify the casting of it. If you get less than that, it's not great. So like you don't necessarily want to go down. That being said, paladins do also just have like the ability to get really high AC really easily. So if you have plate mail on a shield and you're rocking a 22 AC, I mean, yeah, sure, why not? But there are other higher slots that I have ranked here that do maintain concentration, but I rank higher because they're defensive, because they reduce your ability to get hit, which compounds on top of your already very high AC for a very cheap cost of just a first level spell slot. All that makes those spells, I think, slightly better on Paladin than Bless normally is. But if you want to be a more supportive tank, Bless is perfectly fine on Paladin.
Also, I mean, ranged paladins are a thing.
Are they?
Yes.
Why? You can't Divine Smite at range.
Well, I mean, they're a thing. We have one in Authors of Dragons.
Great. The Authors of Dragons subclass gives ranged Divine Smite. Love that.
No, I meant we just have a ranged paladin.
Oh, what? Does it work?
Nothing really works in Authors of Dragons.
Okay, that's fair.
Sure.
Comment, let me know down below if you've got a good ranged paladin build. I've tried, and I've been like, wow, you're really just hamstrung every which way trying to do a longbow build with this, but okay.
All right, well, yeah, Bless definitely made it onto my list as well. It's a good first level spell. Affects several people. I mean, what is it? D4 to your attack rolls?
Attack rolls and saving throws.
Attack rolls and saving throws. That could make a big difference.
It could. If it converts a single miss to a hit, I think it's worth it. Oftentimes it'll convert 2 or 3 if you get the 3 or 4 rounds out of it. If you don't get the 3 or 4 rounds out of it, though, especially because once you're stacking extra attack on top of it, it gets a lot more consistent. If you aren't able to get that converted miss to hit, I am not a huge fan, which is again why I'm like, you really want this to be up for at least 3 or 4 rounds to get juice out of it.
All right, let's see. Similarly, I chose Shield of Faith.
My number 3.
And it is for the reason you said a couple minutes ago. Good effect. Plus, it adding to your armor class helps protect you against failing concentration checks.
Yes. As opposed to reducing damage like Stone Skin does, it prevents you from being hit outright, which is a very substantial difference. It also really helps that like Paladins are going to have a base AC of like 25 with this on. So, and it is really easy to get there. If you can get any amount of gold in like media, like even like not even plate, if you're working at like the slightly one below that tier armor, you're still working with an AC of like 22, 23. If you want to be really boring and take defense, it goes with 24. Like if you want to have a character that just goes, my DM's going to be miserable trying to hit me with anything that's less than +8 to hit, that's going to be an easy thing to do with Shield of Faith. I think this is a very large headache spell for a lot of DMs whenever they're like, I just can't hit the Paladin anymore and don't know what to do about this.
Also, it's I mean, you'll probably put it on yourself, but you have the option of putting it on somebody else.
That is technically an option that you have.
Yeah.
You're allowed to do that.
I like options.
That's true. It doesn't hurt the spell that option exists. How often should you do that? No. I would hazard a guess close to never. But, it's an option.
Maybe if you're a ranged paladin.
There we go. Now the ranged paladin build's coming together. It's just a cleric, but worse. So next on my list is my number 2. Oh, we're at number 2 already. Let's go. It's Command. I think Command is a solid little utility spell, which paladins I really like having. I like having a utility option for paladins pretty regularly, and this is kind of the best they get as far as like an in combat and out of combat utility, where you can like make someone disarmed by dropping their thing, or come at me and they have to run at you with approach, and halt, stop, you're not going to go anywhere. There's a lot of different cute modes that this comes with, like just written in, and then you could just write down
grovel.
Grovel's very, very effective, because then next turn you crit it to death. Or more likely you watch your buddies crit it to death, because you're spending your action doing that, right? So I think to make Command good requires a bit of work, and requires some creativity and a willingness for a DM to say yes. At tables where that's happening, this is kind of the best utility you have, though. And because it's so easy to put your damage into Divine Smites, it makes this a lot more appealing of a spell to me, I think.
Yeah, this made my list as well. This feels like a paladin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I am the law.
I might be ranking it too highly, but I think it's pretty solid. Honestly, probably should go above this.
Number 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be too high, but whatever. It's got a good, nice paladin feel to it.
Yeah, and this list isn't particularly robust.
And speaking of come at me, I picked Compelled Duel.
I knew you were going to.
Yeah, of course I was. I take it did not make your list?
No, not quite.
No.
It's not my number 1.
No, all right, that's all that's left. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's good for the paladin. Yeah, I want to take the hits. I want to single someone out that I don't like. This feels like the what was that oath? Vengeance. It's yeah, it might be my number 1 if I was ranking these. It just feels like a lot of fun. And
I'm gonna
what? Go ahead.
I'm gonna like to read a couple words for you from the spell's text.
Okay. Oh dear.
The spell ends early if you attack any other creature, if you cast a spell that targets a hostile creature other than the target, if a creature friendly to you damages the target or casts a harmful spell on it, or if you end your turn more than 30 feet away from the target.
Okay, that third thing is not great.
Nope, sure isn't.
Oh, I should read these more carefully.
I am close to... I've kept... Every time we go back and revisit Compelled Duel, I get lower on it. And I think I've reached the, this is uncastable trash levels of feeling down on Compelled Duel. I think this is close to useless.
Yeah, that one line really took the wind out of my sails there. That's
got a big dragon enemy, and it's singular in the fight, and you compel it to a duel. Everyone stand back. No one's allowed to attack this, or my spell doesn't work.
Yeah, because what I was thinking was, all right, I am standing way over here. I'm gonna point at that creature way over there, and they've got to, yeah, they either have to choose to keep getting disadvantage, or they have to run through a gauntlet of my friends before I finish them off. That's not going to work now.
Sure isn't.
Oh well, you know what? On this channel, we learn.
This is an educational channel first and foremost, as everyone knows.
I've just learned.
Excellent.
I've learned. I've been burned and learned.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, moving into my number one, if that one's not my worst for what it's worth, viewers out there, I do think there's a worse spell than Compelled Duel on the Paladin spell list. Maybe not like by a mechanical standpoint, but just by like a functional standpoint.
All right, well, first, before we get into that, let's go over your best list.
Okay, my number 1, and I think the reason I'm so high on this is because Paladins specifically prepared casters, is Protection from Evil and Good. I really, really like Protection from Evil and Good. I have seen this spell routinely do great things in many, many games. We just talked about the Oath of the Watchers recently, which it's sort of effective against 5 damage types, and I'm kind of like, that's a good chunk of
creature types.
Yeah, a good chunk of creature types, right? But if you lock into Oath of Watchers, that's just all you can do, though. Like, you can't ever swap out your Channel Divinity for a different one. For Protection from Good and Evil, it's effective against an extra creature type, undead, And you can choose to take it when you're going into environments where it will shine brightly, which I find is really beneficial. Disadvantage on attack rolls from all of these sources is great. It's another one of those defensive things like Shield of Faith where you're not going to be hit and take less damage and maintain that concentration easier. And it also removes all of the problems of the Paladin getting charmed, the Paladin getting frightened, the Paladin getting possessed. Which, if you ever possess a Paladin, DMs, I would recommend it. It's really, really, really fun to crit smite your own teammates to death. Oh, it's a great time. And this just says, no, that doesn't work. It's a really high utility, high defense feature that I think it lasts 10 minutes, so it's going to be 1 or 2 fights. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, it didn't make my list. It very well should have now.
Perhaps over Compelled Duel.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I feel like I've been betrayed by the spell. The spell whose text I very easily could have read.
It's not even that long. It's 2 paragraphs. The second paragraph is 2 lines.
I get really excited by the idea of a spell, and I thought, and that's where I stopped.
You read Compelled Duel and then stopped, and we're like, "This is it. I love it. It's going on my list."
No, I read enough to where, like, if they get disadvantage on attacks against anybody but you, all right, that's it. That's what I want. Oh, should have kept reading.
Unlucky. All right. Well, I think you have one more still, right?
I don't think so. Let me look at my list again.
5?
Yeah, I think I've got Detect Magic, Command, Bless, Compelled Duel, and Shield of Faith.
I forgot we did Detect Magic too. We've talked about a lot of these. Yeah, my list from best to worst is Protection from Good and Evil, Command, Shield of Faith, Bless, and Ceremony. I really think if it were my favorite, Ceremony would be number 1.
Yeah, I know.
I love Ceremony. It's such a cool little spell.
All right. Well, what's your worst?
Rip the Band-Aid right off on that. Searing Smite's awful. Spell's uncastably bad.
All right.
It's terrible.
We were gonna be getting into the smites, I suppose. So
have at it. I have a deal for you. Ready? Okay. You give me a first level spell slot in your concentration. I give you 1d6 fire damage. Deal or no deal?
All right. Tell me that again.
Your concentration.
Yes.
1d6 fire damage for 1 first level spell slot. Is that a good deal?
No.
No, that's trash. That's hot garbage. And that's what Searing Smite is.
No, that's what it is on its own. What is it compared to Divine Smite?
A whole lot less damage than Divine Smite with no concentration.
Yes. Okay.
So, like,
I'm giving you your platform here. Sam.
Thank you. If you want Searing Smite to work at all, you have to bonus action use it ahead of time before you make your attack roll. If you miss, and then you miss again, and the encounter is over, you wasted a first level spell slot. Alternatively, whenever you just wait, when you hit something, you Divine Smite it, you never waste it. You know it's getting the damage. It always takes the damage whenever you know it's going to be hit. You're not wasting a spell slot. You're not wasting your concentration. You can have Protection from Good and Evil up. You can have Bless up. You can have Shield of Faith up. You can have all those spells working while you're Divine Smiting. Can't do that with Searing Smite. On top of that, Searing Smite does a base d6 fire damage. Then, at the start of the creature's turn, it makes a con save. And if it fails that con save, using your Charisma modifier spell save DC, which isn't as high as the full casters, because you're probably not maxing that at first. If it fails, it takes a bonus d6 damage, which is still less damage than a first level Divine Smite would have dealt outright. We're still a dice size lower than it. Additionally, if it's raining, if it's wet, if the creature you roll around in the dirt, the effect ends early. Or it could stuff it out itself, or it could pass a save. In all of these instances, the spell is just a strictly worse Divine Smite. I don't want to be nowhere near it. The spell is terrible. The spell should start at 2d6 damage. You have to prepare this. You have to put it on your sheet. Why is this not... What? These spells are horrible.
Yeah. Well, I had a feeling you were going to be picking a Smite spell, so I picked something different.
Very exciting. What'd you pick?
My worst is...
Did you say Ceremony?
No, I didn't say Ceremony. That's not, no, it's cute, it's fun, and I did read through it a little bit. It does have some cool effects. It's just too... it's not my kind of silly. I picked Detect Poison and Disease.
Yeah, we talked about that one at length.
But I have more reasons to pick it this time.
Oh, can't wait.
Now, what else is on this list? Let me pull up the list. We have Purify Food and Drink.
Sure do. We've talked about that duo a lot.
So what I'm thinking is, if you cast detect poison and your food is poisoned, then you don't get to eat. If you instead say, oh, I don't know if it's poison or not, I'm gonna make sure, purify food and drink, you get to eat.
Sure.
And
That's a
you know
compelling
what?
argument.
And even if it wasn't poison to begin with, maybe the meat's a little off. It's not refrigerated. You know, it's not poison, but it's got some bacteria or whatever. It's turning a little green. The lettuce is a little wilted. You know, this purifies it. This is going to be the freshest sandwich you've ever eaten. So yeah,
I guess. It does say
in my
purified and
mind,
rendered
yes.
free of poison and disease.
Yeah.
Purified does a lot of heavy lifting for making it the best sandwich you've ever had, but sure.
Whatever. You do get to eat.
You do get to eat.
What do you get for just knowing it was poisoned? You get
very
defeated somebody you don't like.
It does, but wait, you could know a lot of things are poisoned because it has a 10-minute duration. So you could be like, that's poisoned, that's poisoned, that's poisoned.
Yeah, well, all right, but yeah, so the whole table, fine. But let's see.
But again, it doesn't like cure it; it just detects it. And then you're like, oh,
right,
well,
right.
that
But
happened.
all right, so purify food and drink, 5-foot radius sphere.
You just get it all into a giant sandwich lump, roll it all into a big old food ball.
You don't need a food ball. 5-foot radius sphere. This is the table. You don't need to ball it all into a lump.
There are larger than 10-foot wide tables, Bob. What if you're in a banquet hall?
Right,
then you roll it all up.
All right. Yeah, so
my
that
food
was...
ball dreams. Yeah, hot trash, awful
the
spells,
freshest
literally uncastable.
food ball you've ever eaten.
But you did purify it, which is worth more than detecting if the food ball was poisoned, because then you don't even know necessarily what in the food ball is poisoned, because you like
now it's poisoned. It's all contaminated and disgusting because you mixed it all together.
Now you need someone to cast the purify to fix it up.
There's ice cream all over my tater tots.
Oh.
And it's poisoned.
Honorable mention, Detect Evil and Good is uniquely terrible. This spell is horrendously bad, so it lets you know if there are specifically aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, or fiends, or undead within range of you. And the reason it's uniquely terrible is because unlike Detect Magic, which affects everything magical, this only does those creature types, and you're still not a ritual caster, so like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to spend a spell slot when I have less than my full casters do doing this, whenever the cleric could just ritual cast it, and then it's marginally better. It also is like stopped by stone and metal and lead and dirt and like anything that a creature would just conceivably be behind, like a wall.
A giant food ball.
A giant food ball. Would you consider that 3 feet of dirt? At that stage, maybe.
As far as how appetizing it is, yes.
Yeah, it's reasonable. Comment let us know below. What's your worst? What's your best? Hit us up with that good stuff. I want to see more Paladin spells than we talked about. How good is heroism? Is it just bad? I think it's just bad, right?
I looked at it. It's just kind of boring for me. All right, yeah. Let us know what your lists are. Let us know what you think of our lists, and yeah, all that. First level Paladin spells, fun. Tune in next time for second level Paladin spells. Thank you, Sam. Thank you everyone for joining us. Leave us some comments and like and subscribe and all that. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.